Most people don't lose power because they are weak. They lose it because they explain too much. The moment you feel the need to clarify, justify, or defend yourself, you have already handed control to someone else. This video is not about communication. It's about why the need to be understood quietly destroys authority. If you've ever felt smaller after explaining yourself, this will change how you see every conversation for the rest of your life. Most people believe power comes from clarity, from explaining intentions, from correcting misunderstandings before they grow. This belief sounds responsible. It also quietly trains submission. Because the moment you feel responsible for how others interpret you, you surrender control of your inner state. Power has never belonged to those who chase interpretation. Power belongs to those who remain steady regardless of it. The instant you feel the urge to explain yourself, you have already stepped into defeat. Picture the moment: a sideways comment at a dinner table, a veiled question about your competence in a meeting, a partner subtly reframing your words to make you look guilty. Your chest tightens, your pulse jumps, your nervous system floods with urgency. Your mind screams, "They misunderstood me. That's not what I meant. I need to clarify this now." This reaction feels intellectual. It is not. It is biological memory. And so you speak. You justify, you explain, you add context, and in doing so, you hand them the weapon. Because the world does not measure you by how accurate your explanation is. It measures you by how badly you need to give it. The one who explains is asking permission. The one who defends is accepting judgment. Machiavelli understood a truth modern culture tries to erase. Power has nothing to do with truth. Power belongs to whoever controls the frame. The moment you defend yourself, you step into their frame. You become the accused in a trial you never agreed to attend. Most people don't realize this is happening. They believe they are being fair. They believe they are being clear. In reality, they are being positioned. But what if you refuse to enter the courtroom at all? Most people live as emotional marionettes. Their strings are pulled by reactions, opinions, raised eyebrows, disappointed tones. Someone disapproves and they apologize. Someone accuses and they justify. Someone misunderstands and they panic. They spend their lives proving they are good, reasonable, harmless, worthy. It drains energy. It weakens presence. Because authority never comes from pleading innocence, it comes from self-containment. There is another way to exist. A way so psychologically sovereign that insults lose weight the moment they land. Not because you are cruel, not because you are arrogant, but because your sense of reality does not depend on agreement. Today we are dissecting the doctrine of non-defense. Not silence as weakness, silence as jurisdiction. This doctrine does not make you louder. It makes you grounded. It does not make you aggressive. It makes you unreadable. This shift alone changes how people treat you. But understand this clearly. To gain this power, something inside you must die. The part that needs to be understood. The part that seeks to be seen as good. The part that equates approval with safety. Kill that need, and accusations stop working. Why do you instinctively defend yourself? Because you were trained to. As a child, accusation meant danger. Authority decided consequences. Explanation was survival. I didn't mean to. It wasn't my fault. I can explain. Your nervous system learned a rule. Clarify quickly or suffer. You grew up. The rule stayed. Now you unconsciously assign authority to everyone. Bosses, partners, strangers, enemies. Every explanation is a request for emotional permission, and people sense this instantly. Machiavelli wrote, "It is safer to be feared than loved." In modern terms, it is safer to be respected than understood. Understanding invites evaluation. Respect ends conversation. A ruler does not justify decrees. A predator does not explain intention. The moment you start listing reasons, you reveal dependence on agreement. Once someone knows that, they control the interaction. The validating self is a trap. You believe clarity will protect you. It will not. Because the attack was never about facts. It was a test of control. They wanted to see if you would react. You did. The first escape is realizing this. There is no court. There is no judge. Only perception. And perception bends toward those who remain still. Now imagine this. They say, "You're being selfish." Old you rushes to correct the image. New you does nothing. Silence enters the space. The human mind hates silence during conflict. It signals loss of control. They begin to soften, to explain, to adjust. The frame has already shifted. This is not passivity. It is psychological judo. Defense exposes values. Silence conceals them. When you say, "I'm not stupid," you reveal fear of being seen as stupid. When you say, "I'm a good person," you reveal moral insecurity. Silence reveals nothing. It reflects everything. Sometimes words are necessary, but never defensive ones. This is where conversational Aikido begins. Agree and exaggerate. You're obsessed with money. "No, I'm not" keeps you trapped. Absolutely. "I bathe in gold like a cartoon villain" ends the game. Because comfort disarms accusation. This is amused mastery, the highest social position. People argue with equals. They perform for those above them. Robert Greene calls this refusing imposed identity. Labels are traps. If you fight them, you are already inside. If you mock them, they dissolve. You're arrogant. Possibly. You only care about yourself. I'm improving. Certainty is magnetic. Only insecurity defends identity. Every conflict has a structure. One questions. One answers. Questions hold power. Answers surrender it. Power deepens the moment you stop needing to be interpreted correctly. Most people don't realize how much of their life is spent correcting images. They are not living. They are editing perception. Every conversation becomes a performance. Every disagreement becomes a courtroom. Every misunderstanding becomes an emergency. This is not awareness. This is captivity. The strongest position in any social structure is not dominance. It is non-need. When you do not need approval, you do not need defense. When you do not need defense, accusations lose gravity. This is why silence unnerves people. Silence does not argue. Silence does not comply. Silence does not reassure. Silence leaves the other person alone with their intent. And most people are uncomfortable there. They accuse because they want reaction. They provoke because they want control. They label because they want leverage. Remove reaction and the entire structure collapses. This is the core of non-defense. Not withdrawal, not avoidance, presence without submission. Most people misunderstand this and think it means becoming cold. It does not. It means becoming self-contained. Your emotional center stops living in other people's hands. This is where identity death begins. Identity is the most fragile thing humans protect. It is also the most manipulated. You're lazy. You're selfish. You're arrogant. You're difficult. These are not descriptions. They are invitations, or invitations to defend, to explain, to perform innocence. The moment you rush to correct identity, You confirm that the label matters, and whatever matters to you can be weaponized against you. The sovereign mind does not defend identity, it observes it. If someone calls you arrogant and you feel a sting, there is a part of you that still wants to be seen as humble. If someone calls you selfish and it hurts, there is a part of you still negotiating goodness. This is not a flaw, it is an unintegrated shadow. Power comes from integration, not denial. Once you accept your capacity for arrogance, selfishness, failure, and error, accusations lose their sharpness. You cannot shame someone who has already faced themselves honestly. This is why the most dangerous people are calm about their flaws. They have nothing left to protect. They do not argue over character. They deal only with reality. This is where fog becomes lethal. When someone says, "You always mess things up," and you reply, "You're right," without emotion, without explanation, the attack has nowhere to land. There is no resistance, no bounce, no drama. The force collapses inward. Manipulation requires friction. Without friction, it starves. This is not submission, this is refusal to play. Submission is emotional collapse. Fog is emotional neutrality. Only insecure people fear agreement. Secure people know agreement without ego removes power from the accuser. This distinction matters. Admit actions. Never accept identity attacks. This report has errors. Correct. You're incompetent. Irrelevant. Competence is demonstrated, not defended. This is how respect is built quietly. Not by arguing, not by convincing, but by refusing to leak energy. Energy is the real currency. Every explanation leaks it. Every justification spends it. Every emotional defense transfers it. Silence preserves it. And people feel that preservation instinctively. They don't know why they respect it. They just do. This is why unreadable people dominate rooms without speaking. They are not broadcasting needs. They are not seeking alignment. They are not chasing agreement. They are stable. Stability is authority. Now understand something important. Non-defense does not mean you never speak. It means you never speak from collapse. When words are used, they are deliberate, neutral, minimal. Questions instead of answers. Observation instead of argument. Why does this matter to you? What outcome are you looking for? You seem invested in this. These are not counterattacks. They are frame shifts. They remove you from the position of defendant and place you in the position of observer. The observer always holds more power than the performer. Because the observer is not on trial. This is where people get confused and call it manipulation. It is not. It is sovereignty. Other people's emotions are not your responsibility. Other people's interpretations are not your burden. Once you stop carrying them, your presence changes. People test less, push less, assume less, because they sense there is no payoff. Now comes the final integration. For 7 days, remove explanation from your life. Not cruelty, not silence for attention, just factual presence. Late? I'm late. Mistake? I made a mistake. Misunderstood? Let it stand. This will feel uncomfortable at first because you are withdrawing emotional labor people are used to receiving. Expect confusion, then recalibration, then respect. People adjust to the energy you allow. When you stop managing perception, others are forced to manage their own reactions. This is freedom. Not freedom from people, but freedom from their emotional gravity. The world feeds on reaction, on outrage, on defense, on explanation. Remove reaction and the world grows quiet around you. This is the final shift. You stop trying to be understood. You stop trying to be good. You stop trying to be harmless. And in doing so, you become grounded. Calm becomes your signal. Silence becomes your boundary. Self-validation becomes your shield. You are no longer prey. You are no longer performing. You are no longer asking permission to exist as you are. You are learning how power actually moves. And once you see it, you cannot unsee it. The deadliest move is refusing the role of defendant. There is one thing more threatening than silence: consistency. Most people can stay quiet once. They cannot stay unmoved consistently, because consistency exposes who you really are. Anyone can fake confidence for a moment. Anyone can perform detachment in one conversation. But when you stop explaining every time, stop justifying every time, stop repairing perception every time, people realize something unsettling. You are not reacting anymore. And that changes the power equation permanently. At first, people test harder. They escalate tone. They sharpen language. They provoke. Not because you are wrong, but because their old control stopped working. This phase is critical. Most people fail here. They break silence to restore comfort. They explain to calm tension. They apologize to stabilize the room. And in doing so, they teach others how to control them again. Power is not built by winning one interaction. It is built by holding frame across many. When people realize your reactions are unavailable, they stop investing in manipulation. This is when respect replaces testing. Not admiration, not affection, respect. Respect does not ask for access to your emotions. It assumes boundaries. This is why powerful people often appear distant, not because they are superior, but because they are not accessible to emotional extraction. Now let's address a dangerous misunderstanding. Non-defense does not mean becoming passive. It means becoming precise. You still act. You still decide. You still move. You simply stop narrating your inner world for approval. This distinction separates sovereignty from avoidance. Avoidance hides. Sovereignty stands without explanation. When you truly integrate this, your relationships change. Some people drift away, not because you became worse, but because you stopped feeding their need for reassurance. Others lean closer, because stability feels rare. This sorting is natural. Do not interfere with it. Trying to keep everyone comfortable is how people stay small. Now let's go deeper. The need to explain is rooted in fear of misinterpretation, fear of being seen incorrectly, fear of being unfairly judged. But judgment was never the threat. Dependence was. Once you accept that being misunderstood does not harm you, your nervous system relaxes. You stop scanning faces, stop monitoring tone, stop adjusting mid-sentence. You speak less, but when you do, it lands heavier, because words are no longer carrying anxiety. They are carrying intent. This is when your presence changes. Rooms feel different when you enter. Not louder, not dramatic, clearer. People sense you are not seeking alignment, and alignment seeks you. This is the paradox of power. The less you chase it, the more it organizes around you. Now consider identity again. Identity is a story you defend. Character is a pattern you live. Most people fight over identity. They say, "I'm not like that. I'm not this kind of person." Strong people don't argue identity. They let patterns speak. If someone believes something false about you, and it does not interfere with your direction, let it exist. Reality corrects stories faster than arguments ever will. Trying to control narrative is exhausting. Living cleanly is effortless. This is maturity, not moral superiority, not detachment from humanity, just clarity about what deserves energy. And most accusations do not. Now understand this carefully. Silence is not the goal. Self-containment is. Silence is just a tool. There will be moments where you speak firmly, decisively, briefly, and when that happens, it shocks people, because they are used to noise from you, not signal. Signal commands attention. This is why minimal words often carry maximum authority. A short sentence spoken without urgency outweighs a long explanation spoken with tension. People listen to emotional states, not vocabulary. Your state teaches them how to treat you. Now the final layer. Power is not about dominating others. It is about not being dominated internally. Once your self-worth is internal, external pressure loses leverage. Insults bounce, misunderstandings fade, provocations starve. This is not because you became stronger. It is because you became independent. Independent of approval, independent of validation, independent of explanation. This independence is rare, and rarity creates gravity. People orbit what does not chase. This is the real doctrine beneath everything you've heard. Non-defense is not a tactic. It is an identity shift. You stop living as a defendant. You stop living as a performer. You stop living as a negotiator of worth. You live as a fixed point. Others adjust, always. Now let this settle. You do not owe clarity to those seeking control. You do not owe explanations to accusations. You do not owe emotional labor to curiosity disguised as judgment. You owe yourself coherence. That is it. When coherence replaces anxiety, your life simplifies. Fewer words, cleaner boundaries, stronger presence. And the strange thing is, people start listening more. Not because you demanded it, but because you stopped begging for it. This is where the transformation completes. You no longer explain. You no longer defend. You no longer perform goodness. You act. You observe. You move forward. And the world responds accordingly. You are no longer prey. You are no longer reactive. You are no longer waiting to be understood. You are grounded. And grounded things do not need permission to exist. There is a cost to this level of self-containment. No one tells you this part honestly. When you stop explaining yourself, when you stop defending your intentions, when you stop negotiating your worth, you don't just lose manipulation. You lose illusion. Some people will feel distant. Some conversations will feel shorter. Some relationships will feel thinner. Not because something broke, but because something artificial disappeared. Subscribe if you're done explaining yourself. This channel is built for that mindset.